So the reason why I decided to create this episode is because lately I have seen a lot of layoffs, especially in my LinkedIn feed. And if you search around the internet, you will also find a lot of articles about companies laying off in 2026. So although this is a topic that might seem depressing for some people, it is a good practice to start preparing in case you get laid off. And one of the things you can do in order to mitigate your layoff is to look for ways to save in your AI subscriptions. And that means creating prompts that are absolutely optimized so you can use free AI accounts as much as possible. And that's what we're going to explore in this episode. Hi, my name is Christian, and welcome to Creating Job Security by Mastering the AI Superstack. So in order to illustrate what we're trying to accomplish in this episode, I went to Gemini and I asked it 3 basic questions. The first one is, if I get laid off and I'm a college-educated white-collar worker, will my AI use increase or decrease? The second question is also very important, is how much will the cost of paid AI platform subscriptions impact my personal layoff budget? And finally, what we're really trying to do here is, can prompt optimization and the use of free AI platform accounts help me to significantly reduce that cost? So I suspected that the usage of AI would increase, not only because you have more time in your hands, but also finding a new job, polishing your resume, reskilling, and of course, freelance work. And freelance work is probably the most important factor in optimizing your prompts and reducing costs. So how much does an AI subscription cost these days? Just about $20 a month for a regular paid user and about $200 to $250 a month for a power user. And that can definitely take a toll in your monthly budget after you get laid off, especially if you're doing freelance work. So the final question is how prompt optimization can help me reduce those costs by optimizing prompts so I can use free accounts as much as possible. And as I suspected, most paid accounts are underutilized by people who optimize their prompts. In other words, the AI providers are calculating in their costs the fact that most people don't know how to create effective prompts. And therefore, most AI models have to help people guess what they're trying to accomplish. And that's the purpose of this episode. So how can we write good prompts? Well, one of the best things we can do is ask the different AIs what makes a good prompt. So I created this prompt that's going to do exactly that, and it's going to rank those components by importance, right? So we ran that prompt in all the different AIs in ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, Grok. And here are the results. Now, some of these had more results than other. Grok only had 6 components, and I think Claude had 10. And I would say about 80% of these different components are the same across all the AIs. You have to remember that they've been trained differently. For example, Gemini only had 7 components. And as I mentioned, Grok only had 6. And Claude had 10. And Kimi, all the Chinese AIs, Kimi, Quen, and DeepSeek were pretty much the same. And so what we did is we saved all of this. We saved all of this into spreadsheets. And what I'm going to make that information available. So the next thing we did is we wanted to know, how does the model pricing and billing impact the cost of creating those prompts? And we basically created a prompt that we're going to apply to all the different models to describe how the prompts are charged, how responses are charged, define the billing by token or request, and for the different AI models to give us their daily limits for creating images or text, etc. And we discovered that basically Copilot and ChatGPT did not want to disclose any information regardless of the pricing and the tokens being used. But all the other models were kind enough to give us some type of answer. So, for example, in DeepSeek, you get up to 50,000 tokens a day, but they won't disclose for the paid accounts. And up to 50 images, you can create up to 50 images a day on the free account, but they won't disclose how many images you can create with the paid account. And if you go across all the different AIs, and I'm going to make all this information available because I basically downloaded all those answers, and we're going to use these answers for our prompt generator. So the result of the two previous steps was the creation of this prompt optimizer. A prompt optimizer is a prompt that will look at your prompt and not only make it better, but also analyze how many tokens it will take to execute. And based on the data collected on the two previous steps, it will suggest where to execute that prompt. Some important things to mention while looking at this prompt is the hard gate, which means that in order to optimize your prompt, it will not execute when you paste your prompt. It will also ask one question at a time, making it like a wizard prompt. Then based on your desired platform or its recommendation for the platform to execute your prompt. This section is where the prompt will determine which is the best platform and model to execute your prompt based on how many tokens your prompt will consume. So the prompt optimizer will not only optimize your prompt, but it will structure the prompt based on the priorities that each platform assigns to prompts. And of course, it will display the links directly with the new optimized prompt where to execute it. So in this first example, we're going to optimize this prompt, which is created for a small office, a mid-sized professional services company with 120 employees. And basically, this prompt is designed to optimize operations in a 3-day office and 2-day remote hybrid model that uses Microsoft Teams, Outlook, SharePoint, Jira, and Excel trackers. And it's going to try to figure out what inside that company could be a risk, including blockers, priorities, and how can automated or semi-automated functions impact the company, identify bottlenecks, workflows, etc. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to grab the optimizer and we're going to run it in Google. Okay, now this has a hard gate that will allow me to paste my prompt. So here's my prompt, and I'm going to paste it in here. So it's not going to execute this prompt. It has a hard gate, so it's going to analyze the prompt I'm pasting right now. And I'm going to say I'm not sure, because if I force the platform, then I am going to miss the opportunity to show you how this prompt can analyze how many tokens my prompt has in order to suggest what platform to use. But if you wanted to, you can optimize your prompts to run on a specific platform if you wanted to, but I'm not going to do that. So let's see what Gemini has to recommend. So it tells me, this prompt will probably run better in Sonnet 4.5 and Claude and using a paid account. So I'm going to say paid. So I can still say free if I wanted to, but let's start with paid. So I'm going to say paid. So it's giving me a summary of what to do, running in Claude 4.5, blah, blah, blah. And then here's my optimized prompt. Now this prompt has been optimized to using Claude's prompt structure and priority, which is first is goal, then role, context, constraint. So this has been tweaked. So let me grab this and let me open Claude. So here we have Claude. I have a paid account of Claude. And if I paste that prompt, okay, let's see what happens. So my first question was how many tokens were used? And the answer was almost 53,000 tokens, which would basically go over the daily free limit of Qwen and DeepSeek. Remember, our goal is not to optimize simple prompts, but to help professionals optimize valuable prompts that can be used for freelance work after they get laid off. My next question was to verify that Gemini was able to optimize the prompt for Claude, and the answer was mixed. Yes, the structure was correct, but it could be further tweaked to create substantial savings of about 46% less tokens in the input. And that is very important. The prompt input is the only thing being optimized. So the next thing I did was to ask Claude directly for further optimization in the prompt. And this is something that you need to do every chance you get. As you can see, the prompt only counted for 1% of the total token usage, but the savings add up over time if you're doing freelance work. How? For example, if you're doing freelance work and you're running the same prompts for several clients, then you could be saving thousands of tokens a month if all your prompts are optimized. So in my second example, and I just want to reiterate this. So we could spend hours in this episode creating a bunch of prompts, but we're not going to do that. We're just going to create a medium-sized token prompt example, which was the office for 120 people. And now we're going to create a mega corporation, a $1 trillion AI-driven mega corporation. And it's going to go through several scenarios. It's going to do economics, artificial intelligence, game theory, finance, geopolitics, and it's going to operate as a bunch of officers. Okay. Now, in the first example, so I'm going to get the prompt optimizer. I'm going to run it in Grok. In the first example, we use Gemini, but this time we're going to rotate and we're going to run the prompt optimizer in Grok. Okay. And I just want you to see how flexible this prompt optimizer is. So it's asking for my prompt, and this is an extremely heavy prompt. So we're going to try to execute this in a free account. So here's my extremely heavy prompt, and let's see what Grok. So I'm going to say not sure one more time, but in the next question, I'm going to say free. So most likely it's going to go back to Claude because I tested this several times. Let's see what happens this time, because as you know, one of the things about AI models is you can run the same prompt twice and you might not get the same answer. So here we're going to go and say free. Okay. So it's still, for some reason, sending me to Claude every time. So I'm going to say free. So in order for me to test this in a free Claude account, I am going to open Microsoft Edge. And here's my free Claude account. Okay, so the entire prompt has been created. And I'm going to copy that prompt. This is a huge prompt, although the text looks very small, but it's not, because I run several scenarios with this test. So let's go to my free Claude account, which is this one, and let's execute it. Now this, the first time I ran this, it took over 10 minutes. So let's go for it. So I had to run the prompt twice. It's a huge prompt, and therefore it took over 10 minutes to execute. And I'm going to make this available, not only the prompt, but also the result in my GitHub account. And well, so it's telling you how to build a $1 trillion corporation. So it goes everything from governance to technology to legal risks, where to open the corporations. It does some of the diagrams as well. It creates security layers. I mean, it goes on. And this is exactly the kind of stuff that a white-collar worker with a college degree is going to get paid for doing once they get laid off. And that's why it's important to understand that we're not trying to do simple prompts here. We're not trying to optimize, what's the weather. We're trying to optimize prompts that will generate income if you're doing freelance work. And so I'm going to do the same thing that I did previously. I'm going to ask how many tokens, and maybe between 19,000 to 23,000 tokens. So the next question is going to be the same as the previous one. Is this prompt optimized for Claude? So we basically encounter the same problem. It's over-engineered. And so look at this, contradictory length constraint. So limit output to 300 words max per phase to fit free tier. Your problem, you asked for comprehensive detailed strategic planning across 9 phases, but capped at 300 words, phase to 2,700 word total. That's impossible for the scope. So it ignored that constraint because it contradicted the core request. And so there's a lot of things that can be optimized. So that was my final question. So give me a new optimized prompt that can be used in a free Claude account. And you should always do this. So we're optimizing, and I'm going to make this whole chat available, by the way, in my GitHub account. And so now I have a version 2 optimized prompt that will work for a free tier account. And that's exactly how you have to approach this. So if you get laid off, the first line of defense, the first thing you should do is optimize it using the prompt that I'm going to make available. And then when you run it in your target platform, you need to re-optimize it for a second time. And of course, one prompt is not going to make a difference, but if you're doing this on a freelance basis and you have dozens of prompts and those prompts get executed all the time, you will save thousands of tokens if you optimize your prompts. So here are my final thoughts. Optimize your prompts to work for 3 accounts as much as possible. If you're only going to have one paid account, I would suggest Claude first, Gemini second, and ChatGPT third for business. But if you're in the business of social media, Grok should be your first choice. Utilize free accounts as branches from your paid account, and always organize your prompts so you know which platform to use them. And remember, optimization is a 2-step process. So all the prompts used in this episode will be available in my GitHub account. And if you don't know how to use GitHub, you just go to the language and you can actually do a full download by just clicking here and then clicking on the download link. That's how you do it. Now, if you don't want to download the whole thing, you can always download only the optimizer, which is this one right here. And I always recommend that people always select the code button, because that will give you the raw prompt that you need to use in order to optimize your prompts. And you can download doing 2 ways. You can select everything, or you can just click on the download button as well. And that's how you use GitHub. And don't forget, you can always contact me via LinkedIn. And thank you for watching.